Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss how we can use our C programming for handling a file. We are going to mainly concentrate on the text file, and we are going to discuss how to create a file, write within a file, and how we can copy the content from one file to another file. So what is a file? A file represents a sequence of bytes on the disk. Disk means on the hard disk, where a group of related data is stored. File is created for permanent storage of data. As it is stored in the hard disk, so it is the main purpose is to make the data permanent. To handling files, C uses a structure named file which is defined in stdio.h header file, right? So this file in capital is basically a structure defined in stdio.h header file. All the files related library functions which will be used to creating, opening or closing or reading or writing to a file are declared in stdio.h. When we want to work with the file, first we need to open a file. Open a file means we are going to put the content of the file from hard disk to the main memory, and that and we will perform all the operations on the file area on the main memory. That portion which is reserved for that file is called the file buffer. So file buffer is basically a part of main memory which is a sequence of byte and used for handling a particular file. To use a file, we first open the file. Now to open a file, we are going to use the fopens function. The F stands for file, and as we are opening it, so it is fopen function. It takes two strings as input argument. The first string is the name of the file we want to create or open, and if the file we want to create in a different directory other than our working directory, then we need to specify the full path with the file name and its extension in the first parameter. The second parameter defines the mode of opening. A file can be opened in mainly three modes. One is read, another one is write, another one, the last one is append. In read mode, we can only read the content of the file. In write mode, we can only write on that file, and in the append mode, we can append a new data after the existing data present in the file. Now, fopen function returns a pointer of the file type, and pointer means it returns the address, and which address? It returns the starting address of the file buffer. So let us take an example where how the file open function fopen function will work. I have declared a pointer fp which is of file type. This file is basically a structure declared in the stdio.h. We have learned about that. Then fopen function, we have already said that fopen function will take two input arguments. First one is the name of the file, or if you give the total path, and the second one is the mode of the opening. So by this declaration, by this expression, we can say that we are opening the world.txt. Here you need to specify the extension. The extension is txt. We are going to open the world.txt file in read mode, so we can perform only reading operation in the file, right, as we are opening it in read mode. When we are performing that fopen function, so the word.txt file content will be copied from the hard disk to the main memory, So this red section suppose our main memory, and here this is my file buffer. It is a temporary storage in the main memory for world.txt, right? It is a continuous memory allocation, but to simplify our discussion, I have put it into a two-dimensional way, but it will be a continuous single allocation. Now here, as we are opening the file in read mode, it will return the address of the first position or the first byte of the file buffer. So if the address of the first byte is 1000, means this byte, then the fopen function will return the address of the first byte, that is 1000, and as it is returning the address of a file buffer, so it should be stored in a file pointer. fp is the file pointer, so fp will have the address 1000. By this, fp can point to the file buffer, so for further working on that file. What kind of further routing can be possible? We can only read from that file as we have opened it in read mode. So let us discuss the different mode of opening of a file. So there are different, mainly basically three types of opening of file. There are three more included in there. We are going to discuss that later. So the first mode is the read mode. Here how can we specify the read mode? The second parameter will be in double quotation small r to specify that we are going to open the file in read mode. So here we have opened the file in read mode. Now how it perform? If the file exists, means the file name we are specifying, here we are specifying world.txt is present in the hard disk, then it will open the file for reading only. So we can perform the reading. Now if the file does not exist, suppose world.txt is not present in my hard disk or the destination or the source path we have mentioned, then it will return a null pointer. So if fopen function returns a null pointer in read mode, means the file does not exist. Now if the file does exist, then the fopen function in read mode will give me the address of the first byte in the file buffer. So in this case, it will give me the address of this first byte, that is 1000, and we can store that into a file pointer. Now the next mode is write mode, where we specify it within double quotation small w. To represent, we are going to open that file in write mode. If we want to open the world.txt in write mode, we should write in double quotation w, small w. Now write mode is if the file exists, then it will first destroy the file, then it will recreate it. As it is destroy the file, so all the content in the file will be lost and a newly created file will be blank. So the file buffer will have no data in it, which is not in the case of the read. If the file does not exist, then it will create the file. So if we want to create a file which is not previously there, we are going to open that file in write mode. Now there is a possibility that the disk is write protected where we want to create the file, or the disk is full, so we cannot open that file, or we cannot create that file. In that cases, it will return a null pointer. Otherwise, if the file does exist or file does not exist but can be created, then it will return the address of the first byte in the file buffer. So it will also return 1000, but remember here the data, no data will be there, because in write mode it will first destroy, means it will lost all the content. The third mode is the append mode, defined declared within double quotation with a small a. Now in this case, if the file exists, it perform only write operation but at the end of the file. Remember, here it will not destroy the existing file. It will allow us to write the data at the end of the file. Now if the file does not exist, then it can create that file if the file creation is possible. If not, means the disk is full or the disk is write protected, then it will return a null pointer. Now here the append mode, it does not return the first byte address of the file buffer. The reason is that we can perform in append mode, we can perform write operation on after the existing data. So here it will return you the last position or the end byte position in the file. So in our case, if we open that world.txt in append mode and there is existing data hello world over there, so the append mode will return the address of this block to fp. Will return the address of this block to fp. So fp will have this address of this block. Now we can perform the write operation from this position only, not from before of it. That is the three basic mode of opening a file. Now, so we know that how to open a file. Then we are going to discuss how to write some data into a file. To perform a write operation into a file, the file should be opened in write mode. You may open it in append mode also to write on the existing data after the existing data. And several functions are available for writing operation. For text writing, we are going to mainly use the three functions fprintf, fputs, and fputc. Here fprintf take three parameters. The first one is the file pointer. In our case, it is fp. Then as we want to write a text, means a string, here the format specifier will be %s and that will be in double quotation. Then the data, suppose the string is actually in a character array s1, so what it will do, it will put or it will write the content of s1 into the fp, into the file buffer pointed by fp. Now suppose it is writing 50 byte of data, means in S1 there are 50 byte. So fp, after execution the write operation on the file buffer, fp will be automatically incremented by 50. So it will be automatically incremented by the amount of byte it is writing. Similarly, the next function is fputs. Here, suppose the data is in S1 string or character or array of character, and we want to write it into the file pointer fp, which is opened. The file should be opened in write mode, obviously. So what it will do, it will copy the content of S1 into the file buffer pointed in the main memory position pointed by fp. And suppose there are 50 byte in S1, so fp will be incremented by 50, so that the next data come from after this 50 byte, similar to the fprintf function. Now in case of fputc, it put the data character by character, so single one byte will be written, then the next byte will be written, then the next byte will be written. So suppose ch is having my character which I want to write into the file pointed by fp, so the content of ch will be copied into the memory location pointed by fp, and here as fp is writing 1 byte of data, so it will be incremented by 1 byte, and this incrementation of the file pointer will be done automatically by the function itself. And these are the criteria on which the file pointer will be incremented, right? Now, so we know that how to write some data into a file. So we have learned about the different functions which are used for writing on the file, basically a text data. Now we are going to discuss about the functions which are used for reading a text from a file. Now, like writing a data, there are the three functions have their counterpart in the read option. So fprintf have its counter as fscanf, fputs have its counter as fgetS, and fputc have the counter fgetC. All these three functions we are going to discuss now. So fscanf function, the first parameter is file pointer ft and what kind of data we are going to write. As we are mainly concerned about the characters or the text, we are going to specify it as %s, that format specifier for string, and after reading where the data will be stored. So suppose it will be stored in the character array s1. So what it will do, it will read data from the file pointed by the file pointer and put the text into the character array s1. Now after this, the file pointer will be incremented by the number of byte it has read. So if the file pointer is reading 100 byte of data, so it will be incremented by 100. By this, it can point to the next location from where it can perform the reading operation. Now the fgetS function takes three parameters. The first one is where the data which I am reading from the file will be stored. Suppose this is a character array s1. The number of character I want to read in a single go. Suppose I want to read 50 characters, then this value will be 51 because I need to consider the null character also. So to read 50 character at a go, we must put this parameter as 51. So n plus 1 in general. Then from where it will read the data. So it will read the data from the location pointed by the file pointer. In this case, it will read the first 50 byte of data pointed by the file pointer and put that data into the string s1. Then the file pointer will be incremented by the amount of data it has read. So it will increment it by 50. Next, the function is here we are going to read character by character. So file pointer here will be incremented by 1 because I am reading a character and character will take 1 byte of space. Next, so we have opened that file, we have performed reading on that file and writing on that file. Then to close the file, we need to use the fclose function. Fclose function closes the file, means what it will do, it will first store the data from the file buffer or from the main memory back to the actual file in the hard disk. So, and it will clear or free the buffer space occupied by the file. Fclose will be performed when the operation on that file is over. So it is not required to occupy all the space for that file in the main memory which is used for file buffer to be there, so we can free them. Now fclose function will take one input argument, that is the file pointer which we want to close. So in our example, if fp is the file pointer, so fclose function will should look like, write like f close fp. First it will write the content back to the actual file location, means in the hard disk. Then it will clear the file buffer, or it will free the file buffer, so that the main memory, that part can be used for further operations. That's it. And in this way the file performs. So let us understand this scenario with an example. So the problem statement is that write a C program which will write some data on data1.txt file, then copy the content of data1.txt to data2.txt. So here we need to work with two files. So we are declaring two pointers for file f1 and f2, and this is, you already know that it is basically a structure declared in stdio.h header file, and all the files functions are within stdio.h, so we do not need to include any header file particularly for file handling. Then we are declaring a character array s of 50 size and a character variable c. In f1 we are opening the data1.txt. The first part is that we want to write some data into data1.txt. Now, so the file should be opened in write mode. As we are opening in write mode, where it will be opened? It will be opened where it will search for that file. It will search for the file in the current working directory. So this is my current working directory. So you can see that there is no data1.txt is available. So what will happen? It will try to create the data1.txt file, because in write mode, if the file does not exist, it will try to create if possible. So if possible, the data1.txt will be created. Now if it is not possible, then f1 will have the null value, and here I am checking that this condition is null or not. So if it is null, means the file cannot be created, so we cannot go further for this. So we are returning 1 to whom? To operating system. As if you remember, then I have told you in the discussion of function calling that if the operating system gets any value other than 0 as return value, then it will consider that there is an error in the execution of the file. So operating system will understand, so the code does not execute it properly. Else, if the file is created or opened properly, then we are asking the user to enter some text so that the text can be written to that file. So first we put the text into character array, then we are writing that text to the file pointed by the file pointer f1, and what data we are putting? We are putting the data stored in s. So we have written back our data. Now we can close our file. How we can close our file? By using the fclose function and putting the function file pointer in the fclose function parameter. So this part is basically to write some data into that file. Now the second part of the code, the purpose of the second part of the code is to write is to copy the content of data1.txt to data2.txt. What will be the logic? First we need to read the content from the data1.txt, then we can write that content back to data2.txt. So data1.txt will be open in read mode as we are reading data from it, and data2.txt as we are writing data to it, so it will be open in write mode. And we are storing those file pointer, we are storing that addresses in file pointer f1 and f2. So f1 represent data1.txt and f2 represent data2.txt. If any one of them is null, we cannot go further, so we are returning 1 to the operating system, and by this we are stopping our execution. Else we are going to read each and every character from the data1.txt by using its file pointer f1 and the function f_get_c and put that character into the variable c. Now here we are checking that c is not equals to end of file or not. So this while loop will continue until and unless the value of c is end of file, EOF. So what is a EOF? EOF is basically a macro defined in stdio.h having value -1. It indicates that the file content is over. So there is nothing into the file. So if C value is end of file, similar to end of file, then the while loop will stop working and we will come out of the while loop. Else that data we have read will be put into the buffer area pointed by the file pointer f2. So it will put into the file buffer area of the data2.txt. So we are copying each and every character and putting that character into the data2.txt buffer area, and this process will continue until and unless we found a end of file character or end of file value. Now when the copying is done, we should close the file, both of the file f1 and f2. By this, the content from the file buffer will go back to the actual file, and after that, as we have executed the total code in a successful way, we can return 0 to the operating system. So let us run this code, and you can see there is no data1.txt present in this working directory. So if I run this code, now at this point you can see that the data1.txt has been created because we have opened the data1.txt in write mode, but there is no content in it. Now why there is no content? Because I haven't write anything to it. So let me put some data to the data1.txt. So let me put hello world into, and this data will be put into the data1.txt, and along with that this data will be copied into data2.txt, which will be created as we are opening in write mode. So let me check. So you can see that data1.txt and its content is hello world. Similarly, data2.txt, its content is hello world. So here what we have done, we are reading here we are reading we are taking a string as an input from the user and put the string into the file. Then we are writing the from data1.txt to data2.txt character by character, and when you are using getSC function to detect the end of the file, you need to use end of file. Now in the second code, the purpose of the code is same, and the writing to the file we have follow the same process, but when copying, instead of putting character by character, we are reading the data from the data1.txt as a string. We are reading the first 50 characters from the file data1.txt file buffer and put it into the s1 character array, and we are writing that back to the file pointer. We are writing that to the data2.txt by using is file pointer. So here we have implemented the same logic of the copying, but here we are reading the data as a string and putting that data into a string. Now when you are reading the data as a string, to check the end of the file, the EOF will not work. We have to check that it is not equals to null or not. So this while loop will continue until and unless there is null. Now you can see that here the data one dot having hello world. Now let me run this code. So I am giving a data file handling. As we know that opening a file in write mode will destroy the file and recreate it, so all the content will be gone from data1.txt. So hello world will be gone and the new data will be file handling. So let me check. So you can see that data1.txt have file handling. Similarly, data2 have the same content because it is the copy of the data1.txt, which is file handling. In the next code, the purpose of the code is same, and the writing to the file I have followed the same process, but in case of copying I have used the fscanf and the fprintf to read from the file and write to the file respectively. So in this case, when you are using fscanf function to detect the end of the data, we should use EOF, but in case of fgetS, we should use null to detect the end of the content in the file. So if we run this code, the logic is same. We are reading this from the file pointer as a string and put it into S1, and then the S1 we are writing back to this file pointer or the file buffer pointed by this file pointer as a string. So let me first compile this code, and if we run this code, so like previous case, the data1.txt content will be gone and new content will be written over there. So let me put C programming, and you will see that the data1.txt will have C programming, and data2, as it is the copy of it, so it will have C programming. Now here you can see there is no space because fscanf function does not support reading spaces. So it is an eliminator in fscanf function, that is why the space is gone. So this is how we can use the different file reading and writing function for editing the text or copying the content from one file to another. Now next we will conclude our discussion by discussing the other three modes of file opening. The first one is read and write mode, represented by within double quotation R plus. Here we can perform both of the read and the write operation. If the file exists, that time we can perform read and write operation. If the file does not exist, then it will return a null pointer, and like R mode, it will return the address of the first byte in the file buffer. The next mode is write mode, write read mode. Here, if the file exists, it will be destroyed. Then we can write. Then we can read the written data. Otherwise, if you want to perform the read operation at the first in this mode of operation, then it will give you nothing in that file, right? Now similar, it is the file, if the file does not exist, it will try to create if possible, and if it is not possible, then it will return null pointer, and like write mode, it will return the address of the first byte in the file buffer. In append read mode or A plus mode, if the file exists, we can perform write operation at the end of the file, as well as we can read the content of the file. And if the file does not exist, it will create the file if possible. If not, it will return a null pointer, and at the beginning it will return the address of the last position of the file content, right? So these are the 6 different mode of opening and file, and we have discussed about the fopen function, fclose function, and 3 different file reading and writing operations functions which can be used for writing or reading or writing text to a file. Remember one thing, if you are using fscanf to read the data, to write the data, use printf. Similarly, if you are using getS to read the data of the file, use putS to write the data into the file, and that will apply for fgetC and fputC also. So that's it for today's video. Thank you and see you in the next video.